Hey, welcome back to Money with Mac and G. Today we've got a successful individual from the Indianapolis area who runs a private equity firm, which has several businesses in it, as well as a long-standing money management or wealth management firm. And we'd like to welcome today Scott Wolfrum. How you doing, Scott?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
We're really lucky to have you today. And don't forget, we also have Tony here, who will add some comedic relief as we go along. But
I'm a modern-day Ed McMahon.
Exactly. And that's why we like to have him here. But, when we do this thing, we're really trying to show people a little bit about persistence and trying to be successful. And as we were just joking about, your trajectory to being successful was just a straight line, right? Straight up.
Straight up.
Amen.
Man, it was just nothing but easy.
So easy.
Easy.
Some people just silver spoon.
Right.
They just don't understand how easy it is.
I don't know why
right?
people wake up and are stressed out.
Exactly. And I know you've been stressed out for some time. Tony,
By the way, I've got a little whoop strap here. I got one on him. His resting pulse rate is 37.
He does like to work in a good workout. I know. It's like, I got to go. So, but that's all good stuff. We want to learn a little bit more about you, Scott, just a little bit of your background, where you come from, maybe a little bit of the family dynamic. And the reason we do that is because we think that some of that determines who you are. Like me coming from a family of 6, I became a little bit more like the peacemaker, but I was the stern one. And so just a little bit different as we go along. And are you originally from Indianapolis?
No, I was from northern Indiana originally.
And which part of northern Indiana?
Little town called Rome City, Indiana. So it's north of Fort Wayne.
North of Fort Wayne.
So I went to East.
Is that where all the Italians were?
No, we had no. I can't pronounce your name.
Hey,
So-
Luciani.
Molto bene.
Molto bene.
Grazie, prego.
Grazie mille. Grazie mille.
No.
But so you're north of Fort Wayne,
Yep.
In the middle of nowhere? Is that
Middle
kind
of nowhere, pretty much, yeah.
And you were just kind of sitting there thinking, one day I'll move to Fort Wayne or the really big city, Indianapolis? And
Yeah, no,
how many people how many kids in your
I
family?
had 3 sisters.
Oh, that explains some things.
Yeah, so I had, and I was the troublemaker. So if you're the peacemaker, trouble.
All right.
Trouble guy.
So you learned how to get along with other people then
did.
too, because with 4, I remember having those conversations. Tony, you probably had those too, where I was sitting talking to somebody and I'm like, let me ask you this question. Were you an only child? And it's like, you kind of know those people that can't play well with others sometimes, right?
Those people. We're going to have to edit that one out.
No. We do know that only children can be very
Different.
Yeah, they could be very good with other people too. So you had three sisters.
Three
right?
sisters.
Well, how do you work out with 3 sisters? How do you work out the pecking order thing? Because like when you raise with boys, they all beat each other and figure out who's the top dog. What happens when you got 3 sisters?
Well,
Do you braid each other's hair and
it
see who
took me
does
a
it
while.
best?
It took me a while before. Well, number one, I had to play some house, so they play some hoops. That was you had to play.
Quid
play
pro
their
quo.
Right. And then when they start to say, we got to play another game. I'm like, no, so you're starting to manipulate me. I said, we're going to go play some hoops now. But guess what?
What?
They weren't coming outside.
The hoops that you were playing was like hoop skirts.
Exactly.
Exactly. So what number were you? 1, 2, 3, 4?
I was number 2.
Number 2. Okay, so at least you're towards the top. That's probably a good thing,
Right.
huh?
Right.
And Mom and Dad, were they together?
They were together. So my mom passed away, unfortunately, when I was a little kid, so like 6 months old. So she was from Indianapolis, and she had breast cancer. So I'm
sorry to hear that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but part of the stuff you face as a kid is how to overcome adversity, and so I didn't know my mom, my real mom.
Right.
My dad remarried when I was like 3. And so my older sister and I were from the same mother and father, and then I had 2 stepsisters. So
Gotcha.
That's how that all came together.
That's interesting. Weren't we talking to Sam, Tony? That was he lost his father pretty young. Is that right? Yeah. I think he did. But that's interesting. Mm-hmm. We've heard it a little bit more often than probably in the general population for the successful people that we're talking to. So, so you lost your mother. Dad got remarried when you were about 3.
Correct.
And pretty good home life. Pretty good. I mean, Dad had a lot of money. He was CEO somewhere.
Yeah, my dad did own a company. He owned a beer distributorship in a little town. Yeah. And
you were invited to every high school party.
Are you guys starting to get the theme?
we are.
Troublemaker, beer.
Oh boy.
Yeah. there was a bad recipe in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I would say home life was pretty good. I mean, we had some issues for sure. I mean, with a new mother that came into it. Yeah, I mean, being real about it. I mean, there was a lot of pain and growth in there. I mean, today, what is my stepmother is truly my mother, the way I look at her.
I would see that. Yeah.
But we had to kind of grow through some pain kind of growing up, being real about it. I mean, there was a lot of hard times, just adjusting
to what was going on.
Yeah.
I got it. And so your dad, he owned a beer distributorship.
Yep.
So he's not actually producing the beer. He's actually buying it and distributing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So is that kind of where some of your desire to be an entrepreneur came from,
I think a lot of it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember thinking growing up, man, I love the freedom that Dad has to go and do what he wants to do. And to me, it was more about freedom than the economics. So just being able to call your own shot.
Absolutely.
So to me, that was the driving motivation.
Because we talked about it on the podcast a while ago. There was a book, The Psychology of Money. And it was just talking about the fact that one of the key aspects of being happy that they found is flexibility, and the ability to kind of choose what you want to do when you want to do it is one of the key determinants of being happy. And I thought that was great. And what this guy was saying was, hey, if you've got money, you've got that ability.
That's right.
So that's pretty cool. So was your dad successful? Was he a hard worker or what?
Yeah, I mean, now he had to struggle too. I mean, if anybody knows anything about the beer business in Indiana, that there were territories.
Okay.
And so everybody what that meant was nobody could compete in your territory.
Interesting.
And so it was monopolistic, really.
Absolutely.
So that got abolished in the early 70s. And so it became very
interesting.
Get big or get out.
Was that the beer baron laws?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
if it's about alcohol, got it.
I did a little studying at Ball State. very, very little
about industries that were interesting to you. Yeah,
you could that resonated with you.
Right. Yeah. So and it was there was a lot in there that my dad had to learn about the pain of business. And meaning, we had to take on a ton of inventory and carrying costs, and there was a lot.
You're talking about after that change.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because, I mean, what you had to figure out is how do we compete?
Gotcha.
Because you didn't have to compete
before.
Right.
Now, did he bring you in and say, "Hey, can you help me?" I know
he called me about when I was 7 or 8. So
that was pretty young. Okay.
Tell me, I got some big problems.
No, I was thinking, you talk to some of these people and it's like, "Hey, he made me run trash," or he made me.
No, we did scrub. I scrubbed beer cans when I was 14 years old.
What?
Yeah, I started scrubbing them because what you do is if you had a case of beer that was broken. Usually it was 1 can or 2 cans out of 24 where you don't want to throw the whole case away.
Right.
But you can't just repackage a case of beer with nasty stuff on the cans. So you got to wash the cans. And we didn't have a fancy line that would wash these things and repackage them. It was me and my sisters. Yeah, we would get paid like $2 an hour or something crazy.
Did you just say you got paid $2 an hour?
Yeah. Well, that was really
8?
my bonus.
Well, that's cool though.
Yeah.
So you got to see the inner workings of what he was doing, even though you saw the enjoyment of all the flexibility he had.
Right.
You got to see also, hey, he's got to deal with some, crap.
Right.
Right.
And financial stress. You had to figure out how to. My grandfather drove a big old Cadillac, got a new one every year kind of thing. And my dad threw all that out. And we're driving Ford Fiestas and then Honda Civics. And, we needed to watch our costs because we needed to figure out how to ramp the business up. And
so when you saw that, you liked the flexibility, but it didn't sound like it gave you a whole bunch of other luxuries.
No.
Or was that a little bit more of a front? Like, hey, we got to tone down our spending over here, but really we got this really cool house.
We weren't living big.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't living big. I mean, we were comfortable.
Yeah.
But I knew that my father was stressed during that era. and and my mom. And so it was pressure we felt as kids.
Gotcha.
When parents are dealing with business pressure, that's
So they hear it, they feel it, even though you say, "Hey, everything's okay," you kids still know, right?
Yeah, they do.
Was mom part of the business?
Yeah, yes, we had a furniture company. I know beer and furniture.
You sit in the rocking chair, the lazy boy with the beer.
I was waiting for that connection. Right.
That's right.
So mom ran the furniture. She's always been an interior designer, and so she ran the furniture business. And the only really great synergy, if you talk about synergistic things in business, which you guys like to look at business too, but was we had manpower in the beer business to move furniture when furniture need moved. And so if you sold something, you had some guys that were available to go haul the stuff. So that worked fairly well. I will tell you that was not a great business. I mean, capital intensive. You got a lot of inventory. It didn't move very well. And
so it sounds like at an early age you were, one, being exposed to businesses. Yes. And I was going to ask you if there's more than one business if you've got a parent that's kind of interested and you got two. But in addition to that, you're seeing the good and the bad. Right? Seeing some synergies. You said capital intensive, meaning you got a lot of dollars invested in it. And it sounds like you're learning quite a bit at a very early age.
Early. Did you get into inventory turns?
Mm-hmm. In the beer business, yep.
What about the furniture business? Was it bigger than one?
No.
You sold it one, you're done.
It's about
we're going to have to do a little definition example of inventory turns. Not right now, but for the audience, like why is that important?
Exactly. Yeah. But so it sounds like you learned some good stuff.
Laundromat, so little small town stuff that my family,
you owned a laundromat too?
My family did.
Oh, that's cool.
So little, I mean, it's just small town America, So I got exposed to a lot of that kind of stuff.
Next to the laundromat, did you have a pizza place?
We had a grocery store.
Oh,
wow. So this is starting to actually come together. Wait, I know the audience doesn't know. Go ahead.
No, this is what happens is somebody drives up there, their car breaks down, and they're stuck there for 3 months, and they have to buy everything from his family. Mm-hmm. They stay in the hotel. They buy the furniture, the food,
the beer,
the car repair, the beer, everything.
More beer.
And if you want to get out of jail, you got to call us because we're going to know.
You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave.
That's right. So it sounds a little bit like what you're doing now, and I'm not trying to jump ahead.
No,
but
that's right.
But so you
formative.
So you get these items that you're going through with your family, and you're learning a ton.
Right.
And you're in high school-ish kind of learning. And
well, I mean, probably started going to work in middle school for my father. And, literally. That
seems like a common denominator.
I started driving a beer truck when I was 14. 14.
Time out. I don't think you get a driver's license until you're 16 in Indiana back then.
I'm kind of old, though. So it was a little bit debatable.
Actually, what he means is the Clydesdales.
Yeah, exactly. Here comes the beer. Right. Here comes the
now,
big
in fairness, they didn't really cut me loose to go deliver it.
Right.
But they were teaching me how to drive one because I really wanted to. I mean, I worked there every summer all the way through college.
Man, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go to college?
Yeah, I was going to say, I know where you went. You.
That's right.
And you.
Wait, you went to IU, didn't you?
I did. Do you understand our conversation, or do we need to speak a lot slower for you?
You know where he started, though. This is my favorite story.
No, I don't
It's
know
in
that.
every one of these videos I worked in somewhere.
Don't know.
He actually went to Purdue his first year of college. And when he transferred that year from Purdue to IU, the average IQ went up at both schools.
He loves that story.
Well, I was one on the low side. So if Ben came, I'm sure he did bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, that's right.
The lowest guy at Purdue is higher than the highest guy at IU, is what he always...
I was not trying to imply that. It might have come across that way. I apologize.
So you went to IU,
did.
And what did you choose to go? What kind of school or what kind of degree down
So
IU?
I got an economics degree.
Not bad, right?
Yeah, but it was mostly because I was not studying appropriately, that I was, the business school thing was way too high of a standard for me and how much I wanted to go to class, if you want me to be real about what was going on there.
I really have a question when I hear somebody, because, and I don't want, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get roasted for this, but you know why they came up with the economics degree is they wanted to make weathermen look accurate.
Yeah.
But are you a micro or macro guy?
Both. Yeah, we did both as a major.
But which one did you prefer?
Yeah.
Oh, a macro for sure.
Okay.
Your macro.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go to IU, graduate. Did you have fun down at IU? Is there anything fun to do at IU?
No.
Yeah.
I struggled with that a lot.
Wait. Were you on the? Did you do the little 5 biking thing?
Nah, I wasn't in good enough shape.
Good. Because in our prior discussions, it was a very interesting with Mr. Vaughn.
I'm sure.
So,
yeah.
But so you got through IU. It sounds like economics. You graduated.
I did.
Did you meet your wife down there? Or did
No.
you? No. Okay.
No. Failed marriage. So if we're going
failed marriage,
we're going all in. I was married. So I went to work at Merrill Lynch in '92.
Okay, got out of school in 90.
Graduated in 90, yeah.
And why Merrill Lynch?
Well, so my father sold his company right around the time I got out. So, and I went there and helped him kind of get ready for the sale. We sold it. And then I ended up at Merrill Lynch. But
ended up, I mean, there's got to be some kind of story.
They were big.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't know where to go, candidly, because I didn't really anticipate that Dad was going to sell the company.
But how'd you get hooked up then? Somehow somebody must have said, hey, you'd be good at, or hey, there's an opening over here, or...
I'm trying to remember how that came up. So I had a friend of my father's, his name was John Kenny in Chicago.
Okay.
Who worked for Merrill Lynch. And John was a real estate guy in Chicago, and he's like, Todd, your kid was born with brass. You know what?
Yeah, a lot of gumption. A lot of gumption.
Yeah, so he's like, he just belongs in the financial service industry. And, we've been developing real estate in Chicago for years. He's been exposed to tons of business. He's got a demeanor that's...
And that's you.
That was
so
me.
you like buy side, sell side, or investments?
No, I was investments for Merrill.
So just to let everybody know, Merrill Lynch, big, investments company, helping individuals plan, invest. You're getting in there and you're going to be talking to individuals, right? Okay. So you're going to help them from macroeconomic perspective.
Right.
You know how to help.
22, by the way.
But but that's good.
What do I know?
Exactly. Right? But you got all the training from Merrill Lynch, man.
Well, and I was street smart.
Yeah.
I mean, so honestly, because I mean,
you drove a beer truck at 14.
I did. Yeah,
that's right.
I did.
No, people can't hang with you if you drive a beer truck at 14. That's awesome.
He said leg up right there.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, honestly, it wasn't like my first job, because I'd been working 8, 9 years, 10 years probably.
Not too shocking. You knew how to talk to people.
Yeah.
We know you.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to talk to you. You like to get out there and say hello to people. And so now you're at Merrill Lynch. I'm sure they probably trained you and then just say, hey, start rocking the phone.
Oh, yeah. They paid me a solid $20,000 to get started. I think it was 18, actually.
Wow.
Paid me 20 G's after I passed my test. So after you pass your test.
Which one? The Series 6 or something?
7 and all the rest of the stuff. And
Gotcha.
then they give you bogeys that you're either in or out after 4 months.
Yeah, they're pretty ruthless. If I remember, aggressive is probably better.
Aggressive. Word. And we had to raise in 92, it was $10 million in assets. And the production accounts were more ancillary, but it was all about assets. And
so when you say raise for individuals listening,
assets under management,
they're saying you have to bring in enough people that want to invest with you, and you had to do $10 million
$10 million in 2 years.
Oh my,
that's a 22-year-old.
22-year-old.
Wow. Because I've talked to a lot of people when I was going through wealth management, and I was just like, man, that's really tough.
I'm trying to think right now if some 22-year-old came up to me and said, hey, dude, I got this awesome...
Hey, dude.
Exactly.
Hey, dude.
I got this awesome investment for you.
And by the way, I drove a beer truck.
Yeah.
To buy a beer truck. Hey,
or ran a laundromat.
And if you want to play some league, I'm in. You like Halo, old man?
Yeah. Boomer.
You got two. I just need $2 million AUM. What do you got? Like, get out of here.
Oh, wait, now we got to
heck out of here. Oh, we're gonna beep that one. Hey, beep that.
So you got out there, and you must have started a hustle because you've been successful.
Yeah, but I chased $6,000 IRAs all over the planet at the time, because I always felt like, everything in business, I still think this today, is that there's rabbits and then there's elephants. So if you rabbits and squirrels, if you're just busy, if you're practicing on somebody, they're $6,000 if all they got. And I remember thinking, well, that's $6,000 to 10 million is a long way to go.
Yes.
But I thought I got to get some wins. And if I just chase people that have $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, I'm not getting enough at bats. So I thought, I'm going to go slug it out. I'm driving to Fort Wayne. I'm driving to Richmond, Indiana. I'm all over the place for $10,000, 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 meetings to get $10,000. So it was, relentless. You had to be relentless. And I mean, you want a funny story?
Yeah. Well, all kinds of funny stories.
So one, I can still tell you, I shouldn't say her name on the air, but there was a lady in Fort Wayne that I came back to. I think it was a Whopper, might have been $17,000. I got a flat tire in my Honda. So my car, that was the only thing Dad gave me when he sold the company. He's like, so he gave each of us a Honda Civic.
Here's a nickel.
Go make hay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but car's a car, big.
Yeah.
You need wheels to get moving.
Yes,
I had 2 suits to my name, and so I meet with this lady. We get down 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm driving back to India. I get a flat tire in my car. I got one of my 2 suits on.
Oh no!
It's pouring down rain. It's like raining sideways, and I'm like, I can't trash one of my suits. So I take off my suits. I change my tire in my underwear. And there's semis driving by, just throwing water on me. I'm trying to jack the car up. I'm like, and all you can do at the time, you're like, man. You have to laugh at yourself. Like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever.
I don't want to burst your bubble, but they weren't throwing water at you.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean, it was not like all glamour, for sure, just going to work for a big Wall Street firm.
And that's part of the discussion is everybody always thinks they see somebody and they go, man, he was so lucky. Right? Mm-hmm. He just had a spoon in his mouth. His dad owned, the beer company or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not always like that. Mm-hmm. And you've got to learn how to and know how to hustle. Mm-hmm. And you knew how to talk too. Plus, you're smart. We know that. And then you're talking to these people. And how long did it take? Did you make it in 2 years, the $2 million?
I made it. As a matter of fact, I graduated in 20 months, I think, was the number.
So, wow.
Yeah.
So you got it done.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I smoked it. Yeah. I started chasing it. Got some pretty good whales in my pipeline. It was all about pipeline.
Absolutely.
It's no different than everything else. If you're selling anything, it's
the harder you work, the luckier you get.
And I was getting more comfortable with what people wanted to hear and what they were looking for, and you just learned. I mean, and I had a lot of no-goes, of course. Can
you tell us a little bit about what what people really needed, and like what kind of advice you could give them, and how you helped them?
What I really figured out was how to solve their problems. So you learn to listen a lot more and not talk as much. 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? Right. And at 20 some odd years old, that's big. That's a big ask. Yeah. So. And that took a while, but the at-bats teach you that. Right. And so the next thing you know, you get into a meeting with somebody that, they put their pants on one leg at a time just because somebody has $17,000. That $17,000 is super important to them. Right. So it's just as important as somebody's 500 or $5 million. Well, the guys with $5 million had just as big a problem. Matter of fact, they had more, but they weren't paying as much attention. Right. As the person who had 17. Gotcha. So you start to solve their problem, and I found lots of problems in what they were doing. And is there a couple of problems you can tell us about? Is it just sure? I can tell you I can tell you the big one that I landed was there was a $24 million pension that I landed. I'm 23, 24 years old. I don't remember. All 23, 24. I walk in, I got a $24 million pension plan. That's great. I lost it too later. So I've had them in, I've had them out. Oh no! Oh yeah, it's part of the deal. And how'd you get it? What happened was there was a bank in Fort Wayne. I won't name them for absolutely. We don't want you to, right? But they were charging a lot to custody the money, like $120,000. So this entrepreneur was paying. He was making a lot of money, like $50 million a year. He was making a lot of money, but he wasn't watching all his costs. Right. And I found that he was paying a bank for the privilege of holding his money $120,000, and we could do it for essentially zero. Right. And so I sat him down. He couldn't believe it. And even $120,000 mattered to him. Absolutely, it mattered. And a bank that had been a partner of his for a long time and helped him grow his company, but they were overcharging him for the custody of his pension plan. So he moved the whole thing to me.
So you solved the problem. You got a big
old deal.
Big old deal.
Sound like 50 bippers the bank was trying to make there.
Bippers.
For custody. For custody. Right.
They'd have to work really hard on that because they got to have a place to put it all.
Right.
And so for anybody that doesn't know, BIPs is basis points, and 100 basis points for 1 percentage point. Right. Nice and easy. And bippers...
Right.
Bippers is what you call it after you had a glass of wine.
Exactly.
I knew what he meant.
I know, I did too. I was like, I loved it. I was just trying to explain because we want to teach people, right?
Basis points, right.
But that's fantastic. That's really, I can only imagine how much like work and the different stories that you had. And oh my gosh, 17,000. I remember talking to a guy that only had, nowadays, a little bit different. He had $25,000 and it was grueling to get the guy to work with you.
Right.
And so sometimes the small deals are 3 times as hard as the big deals,
right.
But it's a little bit weird. So you're doing this, 2 years, you made it through because you're 20 months or 4 months early. And I think if I recall correctly that you moved from Merrill Lynch, right?
Yeah.
You did some moves?
Technically.
And we don't have to go through each move, but
yeah, I mean,
moved.
Technically, I ended up technically getting fired from Merrill.
Oh, no. What happened?
Yeah. So, I got into an issue with my secretary. It wasn't anything inappropriate.
Right.
But inappropriate. You mean.
Inappropriate.
It wasn't anything inappropriate.
It was everything appropriate.
It was appropriate.
It was around a bonus schedule.
Yeah.
That was not formally, embraced by the company and approved by the company. There was no structure then like there is today.
Right.
I had a bonus schedule that I gave her a bonus on her maternity leave, and she didn't like the bonus that I had given her,
and that caused some issues.
It caused issues.
Gotcha. So then you left Merrill, and then you went somewhere else. And
I ended up at A.G. Edwards.
Edwards,
and then I became the manager at A.G. Edwards 4 years later. So I was practicing, had my own practice. We were running 100 million, 150 million at the time,
and so for anybody that's listening, 100 million is a big deal. Right? What's the breakoff between, I forget, state and Fed? Is it
Fed's now, I think, 125.
Okay. So you start to come under the roof of the Fed once you start getting big enough. And 100 million back then, that's a big deal.
Right.
And so I just want people to know that.
Right.
So you're running this now, you're managing it, and it sounds like you're successful because you're just successful that way. And what happened? You've been there for a while?
The next challenge for me was managing advisors. So
older advisors,
older than me by a long way.
Because you're like 25 now.
Well, no, that's not quite true. Because we fast forwarded in there a little bit. But I was probably 30 something, So,
but that's really young still,
Yeah. So it was.
I'm thinking some of the guys I know from A.G. Edwards, but we don't want to name any of them here.
Yeah.
So we'll do that offline.
Yeah. Well, you would know my predecessor or two, wonderful people, and they ended up working in my office. So I know who you're talking about, but from your country club, yeah.
So then you're managing large amount of money. You're managing individual, what do you call it, advisors,
right?
And how's that going?
So now you're running two things, right? So you're running your own practice, and you're trying to grow them both,
right?
And then you start to say, okay, which one's more productive? So,
For you, which one was? Because...
Well, candidly, growing the office was more productive. Because if you could go, the way they did, the way A.G. Edwards ran it, you were paid off the profitability of the office.
Gotcha.
So if you had 50 advisors and you were at 15, then, you start to say, if we get our P&L managed right, and then I got a percentage of the profitability, so it was 20% of the profitability if you're performing on your metrics. So you're like, well, this is a pretty good gig.
You working 100% or 50 people working 50%.
Right.
It's a lot better.
A lot better.
Yeah.
So pretty soon, that's the whole, where the light bulb
mindset
goes on.
Yeah.
Right. It's no different than having any business, is that if you learn... it's one thing to do everything yourself. Next thing to do, if you start to manage people, it's the same principle.
Teamwork,
right?
Synergistically, great stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So you go through this, you learn this lesson. You think that's another piece of the puzzle?
Is that another piece of the puzzle?
Meaning, like,
for sure.
You saw the different things going on with your dad, and now you're seeing this.
And then it's your managerial style, right?
Yeah.
So you learn a lot about what is it about Scott that Scott wants to teach his people, and it's my fundamentals and my beliefs. And so my beliefs were, you treat people right no matter who they are, and you want people to feel good about where they're working. And,
Yep.
And so it's sometimes the expense of profitability. Sometimes you would make calls to say, this is more about taking care of the people, because ultimately I believe that I will get that back tenfold in loyalty later. And so, we did that. And I think, you would find the people that worked in the office that I managed, for the most part, you never have everybody that loves you, of course, but you have a lot of people that.
But I think that's a good point
for you,
because, there's very successful people out there who say, hey, if you help someone else get what they want, you will get what you want.
Right.
And by learning that early, I think that's a very powerful thing, because if you treat people with respect, a lot of them just want to be heard and respected. And if you do that in your life, that really leads you to a very fun, profitable place.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't make them come in on Sundays and fill out the TPS reports?
Mm-mm.
What's a TPS report? I don't even know if I know that.
That's a reference to Office Space.
I was going to say.
Yes.
I don't know what
I will tell you that it's funny you say that, Tony, because there was a lot. I mean, and everybody has a choice. If you were running an office.
Absolutely.
And I'm not faulting what they were doing more than, and that what I was doing was right. I just chose how I wanted to do it. And so there were people that's P&L were ridiculous. Like they'd have 26, 27, 28% net profit in their office, which was really high. But then the people weren't, the staff wasn't making
turnover.
Any money. They were making people buy their own coffee, and they were working in a really crappy office, and they weren't feeling good about themselves.
Yep.
So all of those were choices.
So how'd you learn that though? I mean, is there anything that tripped your wire that you're just like?
I would check them out.
Okay.
I mean, I want to know what those guys were doing,
Sure.
and then I would make a choice. Like I chose. I didn't want to do that.
Right.
Right or wrong. And candidly, it cost me money because I would
in the short run.
In the short run.
Yeah.
But I was building what I thought was
something bigger, better, longer term,
and a team that
cared and would pull
and that would appreciate what I was doing for them.
Absolutely.
And so,
I mean, I think that's like another great lesson, because people want to feel valued, but in addition to that, it's you got to be who you are,
right?
And that's the only way you can live, because there's too much stress and tension when you try to be somebody else. So. Right. So you're successful. You continue to do the wealth management. You've built it up. You've been running an office over $100 million. And then kind of what gets you to a point where you start thinking about, hey, I really like this, but maybe I want to take a look at something else.
Yeah. So I don't know that I had like this big aha moment. We had, you've heard the phrase, if you got kicked off your lily pad, where you're like, I don't know that I would have changed had I not gotten kicked off my lily pad. And the lily pad at the time was A.G. Edwards, was acquired by Wachovia and then by Wells Fargo. And the managerial structure changed.
Gotcha.
Again, not for what I would consider the better, but, it was just different.
It was a change, yeah.
It was a change. And so I struggled with that a lot because I had a lot of autonomy. I had this thing rolling. It was moving, and people were, we were having fun. We had a good synergy. I was having new guys wanted to come in. We were growing like a weed all over the place.
Exactly.
And then we changed cultures. And I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. So you're like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. But in the meantime, I don't know if anybody's paying attention or keeping score, but this is the financial crisis, 2007, 2008.
Gotcha.
Oof.
That's tough.
So you're not doing anything during that move. I remember your history during this, Tony. I mean, it's not fun going through that valley, but that's life, you just, sometimes you got it rolling and sometimes not so good. And this was a not so good time. But, I stuck in there and I ran that all the way through 2011. So I didn't leave.
Wow.
So
3 years. That's pretty big.
Through 2 mergers. We changed the name 3 times and I never left the building. And, the culture changed tremendously, but I was like, it's not time to go. It wasn't time to go for my people in the office. It wasn't time for my clients. And so I felt good about that decision. I mean, there's decisions I made in my life that weren't great. That one was pretty good to ride out the storm as it was.
And I remember one of the guys that I work with, he always said, he was older than me, he always said, the hardest thing to change in a business was culture.
Yeah.
And if you get it forced upon you, I can't even imagine 3 times how challenging that would be. Mm-hmm. And you just sticking it out. I mean, that's like crazy.
Right.
Because
and I think that was formative for me too. Still,
I would believe 100% that would be,
because it was becoming pretty clear that I needed to do it for me.
Yep,
I was working for other people, and very well. And so the point of being kicked off my Lilly Pad, I mean, if Age Edwards had stayed in the game and had just given me the formula that I had,
you may not have changed too much.
I may not have changed, because it was very lucrative and it was rewarding. The people were, we had, I mean, you
enjoyed it, you liked it.
You walked in the place, and you were uplifted immediately. And I still see these people all over the place, and I'm blessed by them all the time.
And they have positive rapport with you, and they just really. Because when Tony and I were talking to Sam, the funny thing that he just totally jokes about, remember? He's like, he got fired.
Yeah.
He was like, he was driving up to talk to the private equity firm, and he's like, my buddy's going to get fired. Man, I feel really terrible. He gets up there, he gets fired.
Right.
But his whole point was, he walked away from that, and he's like, I'm never going to get a job. Nothing ever good's going to happen to me. And what happens? Like within a week, he's like doing great. So embarrassed that he got fired, but then he got knocked off his Lilly Pad, and he was just like, he got going down this path that was so different, but he was so happy that it kind of let him down there.
Right.
And so you're probably, I would say, probably confident, because you've seen that you could do some stuff.
Yeah.
You also enjoyed building a team, wanted to do it on your own. You're probably kind of itching a little bit, maybe.
Massive.
To do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And we know you because you talk to everybody, so your network is probably huge at this time.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting there going, what can I do maybe?
Yeah.
And what do you do? Scott came from a small town in northern Indiana. He didn't know his biological mother, and his dad owned a beer distributorship when he was young. He became a successful financial advisor through hard work, but he clearly enjoyed business. He's now learned a lot about business the hard way, but has been able to use that to his advantage. Join us next time when we hear about how he used his experience to build a $30 million private equity fund. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time for more Money with Mac and G.